Thanks a lot for waiting up, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening from Australia to Sri Lanka. Slight delay, but nevertheless, we'll be starting right now. And welcome to the second webinar of the webinar series brought to you by Brisk Education. And today we're going to talk about going global with Australian taxation and where you can build your career from anywhere, not only in Australia. So some interesting points will be shared during the course of the next 45 minutes to an hour or so. So let me just explain the purpose of the webinar before we go forward. So the purpose of the webinar is ideally to any aspiring accountants who wants to take up the taxation aspect and who wants to build their career. But right and for all, not all of us are privileged enough to come on show, cross the oceans and come to Australia and build a career. But of course, there are ways and means in which you can build your career outside the shows and become a tax agent and tax accountant. So with me, we have a couple of expert panelists, but before that, the sponsor is none other than Brisk Education. Brisk Education allows you to pave your path in terms of Australian accounting standards and practices and makes you a competent accountant. So the panelists, first and foremost, I would like to introduce Rakesh Nairn. So Rakesh started his career as a chartered accountant in Australia and has over 10 years of experience, a wealth of experience in tax consulting, accounting, auditing, and financial management. He has a proven track record while working with several high-profile clients across various industries, not confined to one. So he's a tax guru, in my words. Rakesh is also a registered tax agent at the Tax Practitioners Board of Australia, or else known as TPB of Australia. He is one of the directors of Brisk Accountant Supports, and he oversees the training and quality arm of Brisk Tax Arm that supports the Australian accounting firms. So none better than Rakesh Nairn over here. Welcome, Rakesh.
Thanks, Sanjaya. It's a pleasure to be here.
Lovely. And our second panelist is Sumith Dissanayake. Sumith is the CEO of Briska, which is a leading financial services provider operating out of Brisbane. Sumith has worked as a group financial controller in several leading corporates, where he told, goodbye corporate, I'm going to go on my journey of entrepreneurship, and 8 years down the line, Briska has been growing ever since. Sumith has got his postgraduate from Australian Institute of Business, and he's also a member of CPA Australia. Lovely. So a few housekeeping rules. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not your usual Zoom meeting that you attend to in your office settings. It's of course structured as a webinar, and any questions that you want to down the panel, you can of course see, you can pop in your questions, and during the end of the session, I will bring up the questions, and of course we will discuss anything further as well. So let's move on. And Rakesh, the first question is ideally to you because you're the tax guru and people would love to know what it is. So what can be the unique opportunities and the rewards that comes along with being an Australian tax accountant? And how can you leverage those opportunities to build a successful career? Since you have gone in that illustrious, rewarding path, you would like to know your story.
Well, thanks, Sanjaya. I appreciate you asking that question because I think there's a saying that there's no two things that are more certain than death and taxes in the world. And I suppose that's what got me interested in tax. And when you think about it, there's not much marketing that needs to be done on the back of taxation services because it's a mandated requirement by the government, and you learn the ins and outs of businesses from the ground up, right from setting up a business through to registration with the appropriate requirements, ABNs, tax file numbers, and then you move on to the different aspects of running a business, the financial management aspects of it, and then eventually you look at, okay, how much profit was made, how do we optimize the amount of tax that's been paid. And on the back of that, I suppose you're able to determine what dividends are paid to shareholders and the like. It sets a good foundation for a business career because it gives you the necessary skills to go on and work in different roles. So what you'd normally see is someone start out in a tax role, they become proficient with the necessary skill set over there, and then they might move into commercial where they're working for big multinational corporations, or they might want to stay in the tax stream. And there's a multitude of options that you can choose there. You can specialize in a specific area of tax, or you could set up an accounting practice and basically provide services to everyday businesses. And I suppose the way I see it is by providing the tax services, we're helping our clients grow and stay in business. And essentially that small business is the lifeline of the Australian economy.
It is. It is. As you said, Australia has, correct me if I'm wrong, close to 2 million businesses, small businesses, all in total.
That's right.
Yeah, you just convinced me to forego my career and become a tax agent. So it's multifaceted. And as you told, multiple opportunities. So when you say the word tax accountant, it gives that a rigid framework. Okay, it's only tax. But ideally, as you told, providing support to the lifeline of one of the most stable economies in the world. That's nothing too bad, I would say. That's a lovely career. Thanks, Rakesh. So now, Sumith, I'm turning over to you. You are a registered BAS agent. How can you proceed towards a tax agent from being a BAS agent? That's part of the question. And the other is, in this journey, what specific opportunities and the rewards can you, of course, reap to build a successful BAS agent career from anywhere? So you've got the BAS agent, you be the tax agent. In that journey, how are you going to get the benefits?
Right. Sanjay, let me first explain what BAS agent means to
Yes.
people. Like, it's a bit of a very Australian term that we use here, right? So I haven't seen this anywhere in the world. So the BAS agent is a qualification that you can, give for you to have if you are to help, especially for the Australian businesses to run their day-to-day taxation. For example, GSTs, PAYG, PAYG installments, that side of things, which I classify them as the day-to-day, like the indirect taxes. So tax agent looks after BAS agent's job as well as the tax agent's job, that is, the indirect taxes as well as direct taxes, right? But indirect taxes are so widely spread, so you need to have someone look after them on a more regular basis. So that's the qualification that you need to have if you want to help a small business, especially you for their indirect taxes. The direct taxes. So you need to, indirect taxes, you need to have a BAS agent's qualification. So you can do the bookkeeping, the regular bookkeeping, but you cannot represent or submit anything to the ATO, that's Australian Tax Office, on behalf of your clients unless you have a BAS agent qualification.
Okay.
Right. So that's the BAS agent's definition, or the role of a BAS agent. And to answer your question from BAS agent to a tax agent, so BAS agent qualification will enable you to start your journey to become a tax agent, because there are certain prerequisites for someone to become a tax agent as well as a BAS agent. So it is easy to first become a BAS agent and start your career, because that will help you to even answering your second question. So that will open more doors and enabling you to start your career or the path to become a tax agent, right? So first thing is, like, if you are to, because I'm sure Rakesh will explain this later in the webinar. So you need to have a certain amount of experience as a tax agent or work under a tax agent for you to gain the tax agent qualification. So BAS agent qualification will enable you to first secure an employment in that part for you to start the journey. And the second thing is, like, if you are a BAS agent, there are potentials for you to earn more money, especially as a bookkeeper. who can help many businesses, either through an accounting firm or a business process outsourcing firm, or as a freelancer yourself. You can earn more money by doing the bookkeeping jobs end to end. But if you only do bookkeeping but not submitting the bases for your clients, of course, it hinders your opportunity to secure clients and also retain them. Because there are many other BAS agents who can do that end-to-end support. But if you don't have that qualification, so your offer is going to be limited and you won't get the edge to grab more or attract more clients or to service more clients. And as I said, the potential to upgrade from BAS agent to a tax agent is easy because you're already halfway through. Right. So these are the three things that I usually classify as basically increase your employability. 2 is the potentials to increase your income. And 3 is the potential to upgrade yourself into a bad tax agent's position at some point.
Lovely. Thanks, Sumit. So increasing employability, something that is quite critical in this competitive, I would say, rat race of a job market. And the second would be, as you said, enhance your income. No one is going to say no to a few extra dollars. I'm not going to say, no one else either. And then, of course, the final in terms of the pinnacle of the career as an accountant, one of the pinnacles of the career, I would say, become a tax agent. Of course, lovely journey. Thanks, Sumit. And then, Rakesh, I'm turning back to you again. You spoke of a few career opportunities that tax accountants can take up. But the elephant in the room is that not each and every one of us can cross the oceans, come over here and become tax accountants. So how can those waiting outside Australia get those opportunities which aligns with their goals and interests? And then what are those career opportunities that can be taken up for those accountants?
Okay, so if I'm understanding your question, you're wanting to know what's the, I suppose, the pathway to becoming a tax agent, and then what are the career prospects on the back of that?
Oh yeah, let's go with the career prospects and then let's move on to the path.
Okay, so career prospects, you can literally do anything. Anything within the accounting space. If you find that you're getting tired of numbers, you might even move into the analytics space. So working with data, maybe become a data scientist. You could go a little bit more beyond that and start playing in the IT space. So some of the people that I started out my career with ended up doing systems audits. So they're literally working with computers on a day-to-day basis. And the foundation of that was having the tax knowledge, because that gives you the intricacies and the detailed understanding of how a business works. So similar to what Sumith was saying, I'd probably add this to the 3 he's already listed, is that as a BAS agent, you get firsthand experience of exactly what your clients' day-to-day operations are all about. And so the relationship between a BAS agent and a tax agent is very close. They're complementary, because the BAS agent is someone who's, I would say, in the trenches with the client. The tax agent is then helping to tidy that situation up and tell a better story about the business. Essentially, that's what we're doing. We're telling stories, and our job is not to be the hero of our client's journey. It's more to be the guide. So we're offering them the guidance, the advice, and I suppose steering them in the right direction. And you get some people who work in tax and end up going out and being business coaches. They might specialize in the business growth area. Some people might go into the CFO space. I, for one, know people who are providing tax services, but at the same time providing the role of CFO for a big organization. But it's that foundational knowledge that sets you up for a career which can go in any direction. So if I told you there were 3 paths to go down, I'd be lying. There's multiple. So I think it just opens up a lot more doors than if you just came straight out of university and decided that you wanted to go into a career in accounting and you were processing data in a back room without hands-on experience with the numbers and the clients.
Yeah, as you said, it's always clever and better to have more than one special armory in terms of you as a competent accountant. Tax is going to be that lovely, I would say, diamond that's going to help you to land more employability and then enhance your income as well. So thanks, Rakesh. And from this, let's get on to the part of where you said that you were going to explain the tax agents part. So can I share my screen and then you can go through?
Sure.
Going on presentation mode. All right. Is the screen visible to you, gents?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So yeah, there you go. Rakesh, over to you.
Okay, so on the slide, we've got a bit of a summary as to what steps you need to go. When I initially read this, when I first was registering to become a tax agent, I thought, oh, this is a walk in the park. I'll knock this over in half an hour and I'll get my tax agent registration. It's not quite as easy as that. So first of all, obviously you have to be an adult, so at least 18 years old. Secondly, you have to be what's considered a fit and proper person. So in Australia, the definition of a fit and proper person is basically you need to have good fame, integrity, and character. And then the Tax Practitioners Board will then assess whether any of the following events have occurred to you during the previous 5 years. And that includes being convicted of serious tax offenses, being convicted of any fraud or dishonesty, penalized for being a promoter of what's called a tax exploitation scheme. So you're literally cheating the government out of tax dollars, being penalized for implementing said scheme, being undischarged bankrupt, and if you serve any sort of prison term. So that covers off on the fit and proper person. And then we've got a qualification requirement as well as an experience requirement. So the qualification requirement, I'd say, is probably a three-pronged requirement. So if you have a primary qualification in accounting, so for example, you did some tertiary study in accounting, that would tick the box for you there. You then have to satisfy what's called a board-approved course. Now, the board-approved course consists of a few different elements. One of them is obviously, as I mentioned, the basic accounting principles. You then need to have an Australian tax law element included, and basically at a very broad overview of that would include things like rules and principles of Australian tax, including understanding the legal environment within which the principles operate. So you're looking at the legal system, constitutional considerations, separation of powers as a tax agent versus if you're working in a client's business. The key aspects of income tax law, which are covering things like residence, source of income, and related elements. Then you're looking at international tax as well. You'll look at assessable income, deductions, what are called tax rebates and offsets. And then you're looking at tax effect accounting, where you have timing of events happening and different transactions. Then you've got the key aspects of taxes that extend beyond the ordinary income tax base. You're looking at relevant principles around capital gains tax, fringe benefit tax rules, goods and services tax. Then you'd look at tax, the taxation of individuals as well as basic entities. So the three other basic entities outside of individuals, you have companies, trusts, and partnerships. So you'd have to have a broad overview and understanding of how those different vehicles work. Then you need to have an understanding of the taxation aspects of superannuation law. Furthermore, you're looking at the administration of these different taxes, the collection, the withholding mechanisms, and how to deal with assessments, objections, rulings, penalties. And I'm not trying to overwhelm you here. I'm just trying to elaborate on the extent of
Yeah.
the understanding you need to have, particularly around the tax
Taxation.
law.
Yeah.
You're then looking at things like specific and general anti-tax avoidance. So where you have people entering into deliberate means to try and avoid paying tax. There's an ethical element on the back of that. And at a very high level, that's the Australian tax law element of it. Then there's a commercial law piece as well, which really you're looking at the Australian legal systems and processes, contracts, the laws affecting those different types of entities, properties and law associated with that. Then you're looking at some of the more broader commercial law concepts. So some of those elements include corporations law, you're looking at finance law, insurance law, intellectual property law. So in a nutshell, that's really what the crux of those two core elements. And then we have what's called the Tax Agent Services Act. And basically you have to have an element of that included in your, I suppose that's a qualification requirement. So you've got to have that included in there as well. And that's pretty much the qualification part. If you did that on your own, it could take a fair bit of time, plus it may not be as structured as if you went through an organization that provided set training. Then the experience element, you would have to do at least 12 months of full-time work experience. So if you're working 40 hours a week, 48 weeks a year, that's about 1,920 hours worth of practical experience working on and in the Australian tax landscape. And basically that forms the, suppose the experience requirement for becoming registered as a tax agent. And you need to have done that experience working under a tax agent. And it has to have been done within the last 5 years. So if you did it 2 years ago, then you qualify. But if you did it 10 years ago, then you'd have to go through that whole process again. Another element is that you have to maintain professional indemnity insurance, so that in the event that something doesn't go according to plan, you have the appropriate insurance in place that covers you. And then lastly, you complete an online application. So if I revert back to my initial point about how I thought it was an easy process, I thought I'll just complete an online form and tick some boxes, and then I'd have a tax agent certification. But you actually have to provide all of your relevant tertiary qualifications. And so it's a stringent process, but they do it that way so that they vet everyone that actually gets approved as a tax agent. And I'm sure Sumith can attest to this. The BAS agent route is probably very much the same.
Yeah, Sumit, you want to take up this?
Yeah, sure. Right. As you all can see, the requirements to become an Australian BAS agent is pretty similar to becoming an Australian tax agent. The item number 1, 2 is pretty same. Like you need to be at least 18 years and then fit and proper. It's the same thing that Rakesh explained before. Only difference I can see here is in the item 3, which is your qualification and experience requirements. So when it comes to qualifications, there are 2 parts that you can take up. So one is the 101 part, that is about an accounting qualification. When you say accounting qualification, this is probably a certification, a diploma, or a degree. So if you have a degree or a diploma or at least a certificate 4 in bookkeeping and accounting, so you can tick that box and then start your journey to become an Australian BAS agent. The other part is if you are a professional association member, that means you are a CA, CPA, CMA member, or any other professional accounting bodies. you can start your journey to become an Australian BAS agent as well. And you don't need to do certificate or anything like that. You can use your existing qualification, your membership, to tick the boxes in that area. And while you have the qualification, the accounting qualification or the professional accounting professional association membership, the next thing that you need to have is to take up an exam to get GST and BAS courses. That is like, there's a board approved courses there, which are very specific about, like, specifically targeting the GST and BAS elements like the PAYGs and payroll tax and any indirect taxes from that side. There are short courses. They are not hard to do. So you, if you register with those organizations, you basically get the, the study materials. So you can do self-studies and then register yourself for the exam, and you can sit for the exam and get through it. So once you have done that, the next thing that you need to, or while you are in the process, you can start your journey to get the experience. So experience requirement is pretty much the same for the 101 or 102 part. Sorry, 101 part is only, you need on 1400 hours in the past 4 years. And in 102, you need only 1000 hours in the past 4 years. So that's probably a challenging thing for you. You might be thinking like, how do I get the experience while I'm overseas? So now with the globalization and the work is pretty much, remote work is the norm. So you can easily achieve this. When I was doing it, there was no way. It was very hard, but now the grades are off. So you can easily get yourself into it and gain the qualification, the experience that you need. So basically the avenues, if I tell you the avenues, how you can get it. So one of the main avenues is the BPO avenue. That is the avenue that we are in. It's like if you work for a business process outsourcing organization who cater to the Australian accounting market, you can easily tick this box and show 114 hours or 1000 hours that you require. The other way is, if you're lucky to secure an employment, remote employment with an Australian accounting firms or a bookkeeping firm, you can do that as well, that way. The other way is like, if you are a freelancer already supporting some of the businesses in Australia, if you secure an employment through that way and prove the fact that you have that experience and there's some way that you can get that signed up, then of course you can fulfill the requirement as well. The other part is the indemnity insurance, like Rakesh said, that is like, it's for the rainy days if something goes wrong. So that's where you're going to lean on. And that's a mandatory requirement, which is not hard to get. It's a matter of, you apply and get the insurance. And the last bit is once you are ready, so you have fulfilled all the requirements, so you can lodge an application to become a BAS agent. And if everything goes well, so you get the BAS agent license. And along with that, you get a logo with your license number, which you can use for your website or for your resume. And that, people in Australia will recognize you as a BAS agent the moment they see that you are carrying the logo with your registration number.
Lovely. Thanks a lot for that comprehensive description of how to become a BAS agent. And then we have a couple of questions. I'll bring it up during the final few minutes. And then, yeah, that seems to be it. So I'll go on to the next question, actually. Yes. So the next question is actually, I'm gonna turn to Rakesh on this. So we spoke about how the stringent process, how they can look towards, I'm looking towards Sumith to this. So they spoke of, for you guys, both you guys spoke of how stringent the process is, how the filtering comes into effect. So how can you identify and pursue opportunities as an Australian tax accountant from wherever that you are located, Sumit?
So Sanjay, just to get the question correct, like, so basically you are asking like, how to start the journey or?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Starting the journey.
Yeah, starting point. That's a very good question. So basically, this is a long-term plan. So you cannot become an Australian BAS agent or a tax agent overnight. It might take, at least, a good 1 to 2 years, but it's not a hard process because you don't need to push too hard. So what you need to do is to start the process. I think the starting point is, I'm sure most of you are already qualified, have completed the educational requirement. If not, you can start, complete that, basically your degree or a professional qualification, and, attain yourself into the membership. That's the first thing that you can do. So second thing is, the hardest thing, like what I mentioned, is to get the experience while you are overseas, right? So it's an opportunity there now for you to join with a company who can provide that opportunity for you and who can sign off your experience requirement, like what I said. So one of the best places for you to go is a BPO operator, business process outsourcing operator in your country, who is already catering to the Australian accounting market. And they can easily sign that off. And Briska is one of the organizations you can lean on to get that. So we are more than happy to accommodate for the, if you want to go through that path, and we are very supportive of it and help you sign off the requirement. And then what you can do is like, the other requirements are pretty easy, like, of course, you are a fit and proper, for sure. I don't think you will go into that trouble of, the convictions or anything like that. So most of us are adders, and rest is all easy. So basically complete your education or start and do that quickly. Because for you to become a BAS agent, to start with, you don't need a degree or anything. You can do a certificate course. There are so many providers in Australia who can provide the certificate course. But for you to sometimes, secure an employment in the BPO sector or directly with an Australian accounting firm, perhaps you need to build your skill set or the hands-on experience. For that, of course, Briska Education can help. Briska Education provide that support and get you skilled to work on the systems and the GSTs and all the indirect taxes and even direct taxes, because we got a course for the Australian taxation as well. Those courses will help you secure an employment with a BPO organization or a company directly in Australia, if you have completed those ones, and then show the fact that you can work, they work on those systems and work on those procedures directly, then you can get an opportunity. So basically, Sanjay, the message is, you need to try and get yourself started with the experience part while you are fulfilling the educational requirements. So if you can do both together, they're completing the education requirement and the experience, then your path is going to be quicker and you can become an Australian BAS agent or tax agent quicker.
Thanks a lot, Sumit, for that. As everyone says, education is of utmost importance. That together, partnered with practical experience, makes you a competent accountant and then push you towards the BAS agent, hence the taxation journey. Thanks a lot. And as they say, nothing great comes easy. It takes a lot of effort and a journey. And then you subtly touched on Brisk Education. And Rakesh, I'm going to turn to you because there is no better man in the room than you, because you clearly developed the Briska tax education, the tax path, and what support and resources are available for people who want to learn more about the Australian taxation standards and so on and so forth, and how specifically can risk education, apart from whatever Sumith shared with us?
So we actually have an education course which will help you. Once you go through the course, you should be able to step into a tax role, and you'd be able to deliver on tax jobs for all types of entities. So from individuals right through to companies. And I suppose the modules are delivered as part. There's some recorded sessions that you would do during the week. On the back of that, we do a practical workshop where you'll have an instructor sit with you and go through questions that you have, as well as maybe work through a case study or particular areas of concern. And ideally, it's one way. Something I went through when I was studying was the best way to learn is you do things in threes. So there's one way someone shows you how to do it, then there's one way you do it with that person, and then there's one way you do it yourself, and then that person reviews. So that's what we're trying to encourage with the course that we've put together. There is the showing, which is what we do in the recorded sessions. Then the doing together is in the workshops, and then we have an assessment item where we test knowledge that has been delivered through the training. So the idea behind putting that course together was to replicate what you would encounter on a day-to-day basis within an Australian tax accounting firm, and essentially to equip you with the skills necessary to be able to navigate that sort of a landscape.
Lovely. Thanks a lot, Rakesh. So a comprehensive support from Risk Education, and no one can say no to that. So now, before we conclude, I would like to raise a few questions that's come from the audience, and I'm just gonna answer them live. So the first question, I would like to bring it up with Sumith, because you have had experience in the Sri Lankan spectrum as well. So is the AAT Sri Lanka membership valid under the 102 category?
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is, because in this, if you look at the professional association membership, Sanjay, they're not specifying it, right?
Yeah.
They're not saying these only these ones are the ones that they look for. It's a matter of us proving that we have a professional membership, and sometimes they might be that something hasn't been assessed before. You might have to submit the curriculum and few more documents from the AAT to get that assessed. Once it is assessed, then anyone who comes after that from the same discipline, so they get accepted straight away, right? So because Australia is a country where you are not only getting people from Sri Lanka, so you get people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And they are open for, they don't know, what that country's specific professional organization, what they do, and, where they sit in terms of the scale for the educational, the requirement that they look at.
Yeah.
And some of them are already approved. For example, I know the CA Sri Lanka is approved straight away. And if you are a CPA member, of course, it's straight away approved, because they are more larger organizations, and a lot of people have gone through this path from those disciplines. But if don't hesitate that, don't conclude yourself that it's not approved or it's approved. It's a matter of you present it, and then you go through the requirements that they are asking you, or if they request some documents, to submit them. And sometimes it's always good to you can always have a not an argument, but have a they are very receptive for your comments and your thoughts and your kind of story. So if you want to present it that way, I'm sure you can get that hurdle ticked off.
Thanks, Sumit. Thanks a lot for that.
Can I add something to what
please,
Sumit said
Go
there?
ahead.
So with the AAT membership, that falls under the Institute of Public Accountants, so IPA, which is one of the other accounting bodies here in Australia. And so if you were, let's say, for example, you wanted to maximize your earnings before you take the leap to doing a tax agent certification, you could go down the BAS agent route. you do those initial 2 courses, and then there is, depending on the timing of when you do it, you might be able to get some credit transferred from the BEST qualification across to your tax agent qualification. So as opposed to going down that initial, having a basic accounting qualification, if you've got those 2 from the BEST agent registration, you can use that, and then you just go straight into the tax and the commercial law elements of the tax agent registration.
Thanks.
So to answer the question, yes, it would be valid under the category 102.
It would be, and then it's best to do your own research and then get the qualifications in line with the Australian qualifications as well. So the next question is actually going to be towards Rakesh. Rakesh, you subtly touched on this as well right now, but the question is, how can you gain practical experience in the field of Australian taxation? And what are the options? We spoke of a few, but if you can summarize for all our benefit, then that'll be great.
Okay, so I'll just elaborate on what Sumith said before. If you're working directly with a BPO, and maybe this is a shameful plug, but if you're working with a reputable and I suppose a BPO that has your concerns at the center of what they do, they provide the relevant training and support to make sure that you are the most capable tax accountant that you can be. And so you can work, I mean, we're working in a global business landscape nowadays, right? Thanks to maybe the pandemic had something to do with it, but also technology and the fact that you don't have to be working in your immediate geographic area in order to conduct business, right? So what I'm trying to say is that you can be in Sri Lanka and work for an accounting firm in Australia. And through that process, you're getting the necessary training, the guidance, you're getting support from your BPO, as well as the resources to help you get to that point where you're getting the practical experience, as well as you're doing this from outside of Australia. And the way I envisage the perfect storm, so to say, is that you would start out doing work in a BPO. They would then position you in an Australian accounting firm. You get your hands-on experience working directly with the accounting firm. And then if you can, I suppose if you're performing at the required level, there's nothing that will stop you from moving through the process of being sponsored by that accounting firm if they do bring you into Australia as a migrant, because I can attest that right now we have a shortage of qualified and experienced accountants, not only in just your transactional management, but also in the tax landscape. So you know, it's the right pathway that I see working for most people that are currently based overseas.
Thanks a lot. And as you clearly said, accountants are hard to come by, even more than, I would say, whatever not. All right. So thanks a lot, Rakesh, for that. And then there seems to be no other question, but any parting thoughts? We are nearing the completion. Maybe Rakesh, over to you, and so we can then conclude. Any parting thoughts if you want to add to
Yeah,
our
sure.
audience?
I mean, it's your career at the end of the day. And you can either choose, I suppose, to use an analogy, the best time to have planted a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is to do it now. If you wait and say, I'll do it the next year or the year after, chances are you'll get to that point in time and you'll never have done it. So I suppose parting words would be to take action now, because it's your career. No one else, knowledge is power. People can take anything from you, any of your physical assets from you, but what you have in your mind, your education, that's not something that anyone can take away from you. They can take the piece of paper away, but if you've got the practical knowledge and all that behind you, it can prop you up through any storm.
As you said, yeah, knowledge is power, and then what matters is starting. So start now rather than regret later. Sumith, any parting thoughts for our aspiring audience?
Love what Rakesh said, actually. That's really inspiring. Of course, the best time for you to start is now. Basically, what I want to say is there are many opportunities here. There are a lot of opportunities if you get yourself ready for it. So make sure, end of the day, so you are the driver of your own vehicle. So you need to make sure that you get yourself ready. So one is the qualification part. Of course, you need to have proper qualification, but don't settle with it. So you need to gain experience. That is all. That's going to the qualification will open the door for you, but the experience and your soft skills will take you to the next level. So make sure that while you are in the journey, so build some human skills at the same time. So that way you can open the door, go in, and then of course, get to the next level. So that's my message. So while you are doing all of these things, the human skills part, so see how you can improve that as well.
So further to that, Sumith, there's a lot of talk, I suppose, around the whole technology is going to take our jobs away, and so the practical, that's something that potentially could, not the practical as such, but the theory and the mundane sort of tasks, automation and ChatGPT, for example, might replace those sort of functions that the accountants can bring to the table. But if you're constantly developing your skill set and you're working on those soft skills and your emotional intelligence, that's what a business owner will connect with at the end of the day, whether it's an accounting practice or the end client. And time and time again, you'll come across someone who's magnificently technical, and they just don't deliver the goods when it comes to delivering value for the end client. So while we are touching on the practical and the technical stuff here, I think don't underplay the importance of soft skills. And someone once asked in a different session about what's the language capability requirement and things like that. I think if I were hiring somebody, I would hire based on attitude. So if you come with a can-do attitude and you're willing to learn, language barriers, I mean, in today's day and age, Australia is the most multicultural country in the world. And if you can't accept someone's, someone who doesn't have English as a first language, that's, I would, Sumith, you can probably confirm this, but it's probably classified as being un-Australian if you're having that sort of an approach to things. There's a couple of other questions that came up here, Sanjaya, so I'll
yeah, please. I was going to bring it up, so yeah, you can.
Okay, so the one of them was just around whether we have an office in New Zealand. But Sumith, correct me if I'm wrong, but Brisca does have a presence, or is working on a presence in New Zealand, which I think is fairly close to being completed, if not already.
So we already completed Rakesh, and we are in Auckland. So we have an office in Auckland, and we have a couple of team members who are sort of helping clients in New Zealand at this point of time.
All right, and then there's one more question that I would like Sumith to be a part of. Is there any age restriction which would stem your career from becoming a BAS or a tax agent? I don't think there is, but I'll leave it for the experts.
Not really. That's the one of the good things in Australia. So they only have the starting point, but there is no, as you can see, at least 18 years old. But it never say that you can't be a tax agent or a BAS agent when you are in the 80s, right? So there's no cap for the age, so it's open. And anytime you can become sometimes we have to tell you some stories from what I heard, like even the CFOs or the people, the senior finance professionals, when they retire, they gain this qualification of a BAS agent or a tax agent, and then they do some freelancing. They go into a more portfolio career instead of work for one company. So now you are more free and relaxed, and then you work on your own terms.
Yeah.
And for you to do that, this is a very good qualification to have. So you can support anyone. You already have the commercial experience, but this will tick the box for the legality of, you can earn money while you are helping others. Because you can help people on a voluntary basis. But if you are going to charge for what you do for other people, other clients, then you need to have these qualifications, especially tax agent or a tax agent license, depending on how much of this extent to how you're going to help the client.
Okay. So thanks a lot for that, Sumit. And then there are a few other questions. I'll just take up one, and I'm gonna have it to with oh no, that question is gone. All right. I was gonna a bit of a detailed question, but then yeah.
I think it was from Rajiv regarding. So I think what he's saying is he's done an advanced diploma of accounting from Victoria Uni in Melbourne. This was many years ago. So I just responded there for anyone that didn't see the response. I think that's something that would probably be worthwhile taking offline, because it seems like Rajiv's circumstances are very specific. So he's done some experience in middle management, and he's wanting to know how Brisca Education can assist him to become a BAS agent. So recognition of prior Australian qualifications, I think, will carry a fair bit of weight. And I think that that's something Brisca Education can definitely assist with in terms of giving you more current practical knowledge. So please reach out to the team at Brisca Education, and I think we can tee up a one-on-one with you.
Yes, and as being part of the session, we are offering those who are interested a free consultation as to how you can build and mold your path. So anyone who's interested, we could obviously get in touch with you. And then, yeah, that calls it a day. We are nearly at the hour, right on time. So thank you, Rakesh. Thank you, Sumith, for sharing a few lovely, I would say, insightful nuggets. Rakesh, taking a cue from your tax nuggets. So it's lovely, and it has been quite insightful for me, deciding whether I should take up taxation, clearly. And then I hope the audience as well, because we started with one question and then questions just came popping in. It clearly seems that it's interacting. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and I bid you good night. And thank you, Rakesh. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
Very shortly.